Your journey has been an interesting one up to here. You've questioned so much more than those around you. You've even questioned yourself as to how you could have grown into these thoughts. Am I crazy? When did I begin to think differently? Why do people in general appear so limited in their thought process? Rest assured, you are not alone. The world is slowly waking up to what you already know inside, yet can't quite verbalize. Welcome to the Spiritual Dope Podcast, the show that answers the questions you never even knew to ask, but needed the answers to. Questions about you, this world, the people in it. Most importantly, how do I proceed now moving forward? We don't claim to have all the answers, but we sure do love living in the question. Time for another hit of Spiritual Dope with your host, Brandon Henley. Let's get right into today's episode.
Hey there, Spiritual Dope. We are back here today, and we have a repeat guest. We don't get too many repeat guests, but this one is near and dear to my heart. Dr. Srikumar Rao, who's an elite coach who works with a select group of entrepreneurs, professionals, and senior executives who are already successful and are now ready to make a dent in the universe. They recognize that life is a spiritual journey and wish to imbue that understanding into every facet of their lives. I'm not going to read off the whole bio there because you have been on before. And I also want to say, I went through your course, the Creative and Personal Mastery course with you, spent some time with you and some amazing individuals, and I had a blast. I had a great time. And when I understood that you had a new book coming out, I think you leaked that to me early on, that you had a new book coming out, and it is out now, Modern Wisdom, Ancient Roots, The Movers and Shakers Guide to Unstoppable Success. When I had the opportunity to be one of the first to read it, I jumped on it. I always love what you're putting out. You always put out quite a bit of great wisdom that I'm able to, reflect upon and use in my life. So here we are again. Thanks for jumping on. Before we get started, Dr. Rao, I asked a question in the first podcast, and I was kind of startled by your passionate response. I asked you if you were a guru. You said absolutely not. There was a very passionate feeling about that. Could you just, for me and the audience, what would you say a guru is? How would one identify a guru? And then we can hop on into your book.
In the Indian tradition, a guru is a person who removes ignorance, who removes darkness. So there is a deeper context. People are searching for gurus who are also jnanis. That's important. A jnani is a person who has completely transcended identification with a particular body, mind, intellect complex. So he or she, whatever the physical form is, they understand that this is not real, it is a dream. And they do not identify with the dream, they identify with the creator of the dream, the witness of the dream. So therefore, stuff happens, but they're not personally affected because the identification that feeling that we have is not there with respect to the body, mind, intellect complex. That's a jnani. In India, a guru is both a person who takes you away from darkness and is a jnani.
Okay.
And, here's a very simple rule of thumb. Anybody who says, I am a jnani, is probably a person you want to stay away from.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. That makes sense. And thanks for clearing that up for me, because again, I was just, I think that I would associate with you as at least at the very minimally, someone who helps to remove some ignorance. So I can leave it there. And thank you for that.
That I will take credit for. My unique gift, Brandon, is I'm a very good translator. I am not an expert in any wisdom tradition, but I have read widely in them all. And there are many extraordinarily powerful sages who have existed, in many different parts of the world at many different times. And their teachings have immense value. But they spoke using language and examples that were appropriate to the time and geography that they were in. And modern people in a post-industrial society don't necessarily relate to that.
Right.
I have taken their essential teachings and translated them into exercises and language that an intelligent person in a post-industrial society can relate to. So I'm a translator. I like to believe that I'm a good translator, but the power of my ideas come from them. It's their ideas. I just change the language in which they're expressed.
And that's certainly one of the things I love about your writing and taking some of this ancient wisdom and being able to display it in a story that's similar to the surroundings I might find myself in. Washing dishes, I think there's a story around washing dishes. The way that I might feel in any business setting. And again, you got 60 stories. Hold it up. We've got 60 stories plus in here, right? And the other thing I love about these chapters is that they're short.
They're short.
Mm-hmm. I can pick this book up and I can read something, and it's concise and it delivers a really nice message for me, something I can reflect upon. Doesn't take too much out of my time out of my day to do that if I just read one a day and went about it that way. How do you see people using this book? And yeah.
The persons who have reported back to me, many of them are members, alumni of my course, Creativity and Personal Mastery, or they know me well from my many YouTube videos and interviews and so on. They do exactly what you suggested. They get the book, they read it fast, and then they go back and dip into it from time to time. Right. And though the chapters are short, many of them are quite profound. And if you really reflect on what does it say and what are the implications of what it says for my life, you'll find that they are very deep. And if you constantly meditate on that, your life will change.
What do you feel is different for you with this book versus some of your others? You've got Happiness at Work, you've got Are You Ready to Succeed? You've got your Creative and Personal Mastery on Mind Valley, as well as audio. How do you feel yourself that this is different, a different approach for you?
Different stories, different modes of expression, but essentially the teaching that I do is always the same. It's the same throughout all the books. Throughout these, as well as it's going to be the same in the next book that I'm working on. But the expression is different. And sometimes you can hear the same thing, but a particular person or a particular mode of expression suddenly makes an impact on you.
Yeah, I've certainly felt that. Even as I told you, as we started this, I've gone through some of the books before. Are you Ready to Succeed? I've gone through it several times, and each time I read it, it's like a brand new book. Mm-hmm. Even going through this it is a brand new book. And one of the things that I enjoyed a lot about this is that some of your previous books had the exercises as a part of the chapter, right? As part of the reading materials. This one has these exercises towards the back of the book to go through the different chapters. Is there any logic behind that, or is that just how you did it this time?
That's what my editor suggested, frankly. And I think it makes sense because you put it down and you read it and say, gee, this is interesting. How can I apply it to my life? And there's a resource at the end.
Yes. No, very, very, like I said, I enjoyed that. And it was noticeable that was a difference from your other books. What a couple of my favorite chapters, have to go in here real quick and say, where's this one? What will they think of me? Right, chapter 29. What would they think? Because we're always thinking about that. I'm always thinking about it, and there's plenty of times where I might not take action on something because I'm worried about what somebody may think of me, and not to give it away, but this right after I got this book, an incident had happened to me where I went into a sales meeting, went into this meeting very nervous. And after the meeting, reconvened with the rest of the group, and I said, hey, what did you think about the meeting? How do you think it went? How did I sound? Right? I wanted some feedback on how I felt like I did. And the guy on the other side, he goes, well, Brandon, I really wasn't paying attention to you. I was just paying attention to what came out of my mouth. And I was like, that's exactly what's in this book. They're not thinking of me. A couple other chapters, lots of chapters stuck out at me. The Marvelous Prisoner, boxing you in right at the beginning. Chapter 3 was one that I had noted. And I think the invisible threads that bind you are all ones that kind of jumped out at me. And again, I think each one's going to have its own moment for me. What were some of your favorite chapters as you were putting this together?
The wedding guest, or the strange disappearance of the wedding guest, was a chapter I really enjoyed writing.
Tell us more about that one.
Well, it talks about a person who is a wedding guest. Actually, he wasn't a wedding guest. He was a wedding crasher, but you didn't have that term in those days. And he goes in there and he creates havoc. And then when they try to find out who's this guy, he disappears. And I draw the analogy to your mind, because the mind is always creating problems for you. You look back on your life and 99.9% of all your problems are created by your mental chatter. But if you look inwards, what the hell is this mind and why is it creating problems? You discover that there's no such thing. The mind is simply an unceasing flow of thoughts. And once you start investigating the nature of the mind, it disappears, just like the wedding crasher. So it's an analogy that most people can relate to.
100%. I can always, anytime I'm trying to pin the tail on my own mind, it's very, very elusive. One of the other things that you mentioned, and it took me a while to figure this one out for myself, and I actually just heard someone give another speech that related to this, but trying to solve external problems or internal problems with external fixations. Could you dig into that a little bit for us?
Sure. There's a story I tell in the book which is relevant to this, so let me narrate that. So there was a guy who was in faultless evening clothes, searching desperately under a street lamp, and a jogger runs past. And the jogger circles around and says, "Hey, you look troubled. There's something wrong." And the man says, "I dropped my car keys." So the jogger says, "No problem. I'll help you find it." So he bends down and they search. And after a few minutes says, "Look, we've searched this area pretty thoroughly. And there are no car keys here. Where did you drop them?" And the guy says, "I dropped them over there." And the jogger is upset. He says, "Well, why the hell are you searching here if you dropped them there?" And the guy says, "Well, it was dark there and this light here, so I thought I'd search here." So everybody understands that it's kind of funny. It's a joke. But what's not a joke is that's exactly what all of us do. We have this internal lack that we are not good enough, that there's something missing in our life. And we go outside and try to do things outside, try to get more money, try to get a bigger house, try to get a better spouse, try to become CEO. And it's all this drive to fill this internal lack. And the lesson is you cannot solve an internal problem with external action. Because no matter what you do, no matter what you accomplish, if you have that internal lack, it remains. You cannot solve an internal problem with external action. It's no different from dropping your keys there and searching for it here.
I love that story. I always thought that it just meant that he was just looking in the light, but it took me a while to finally figure out what you had said there too, right? That I was looking for the answers outside of this other place. And I always thought that maybe the metaphor could also be that, like, shine the light internally.
Absolutely, yes.
One of the other ones I think that it relates to a little bit of what we're talking about here is the idea to maybe lessen or rid ourselves of ambition in one of these stories, right? Can we talk about how that might align to what we're saying here too?
Absolutely. We got it backwards in our society. We talk about ambition is a good thing, and every young man is told, you can do out and do great things. You have to be ambitious. Ambition, by definition, makes you unhappy with where you are. And you got to go out and do something, because if you achieve it, then you will be happier. It's setting you up to be unhappy where you are, because you'll be happy when something happens, when you achieve your dream, when your ambition pays off. Wrong. You can do great things, but you can do great things even as you're perfectly happy and content where you are.
Do we, on that note, how do we unwind some of this, right? Because here we go, 40 plus years here in this either ambitious drive or trying to, it's almost like one of those Three Stooges skits where I'm taking a bucket and I'm trying to empty out water and it's coming in faster than I can unbucket it.
Yeah. And that's exactly the way it is. So what happens is, how do you accomplish stuff if you don't have ambition? Have a vision. This is what I want to have. And the vision drives you because that's your path in life. So you do it because that's your path in life. But it does not have any bearing on your well-being. If I accomplish my goal, fantastic. If I don't accomplish my goal, fantastic. Because here's the mistake we all make, Brandon. We think that the purpose of setting a goal and working hard to achieve it is achieving the goal. Wrong. The benefit of setting a goal and trying your level best to achieve the goal is the learning and growth that happen in you and to you as you try your level best to achieve the goal. If you actually achieve the goal, that's a bonus. Be grateful. If you don't achieve the goal, the learning and growth have already happened. So it's a no-lose proposition. So ambition is a desire to do something, make yourself better. By all means, do that. But don't do it with the false notion that if you succeed in doing it, then something great's going to happen to you. You just do it because that's your path in life. And you're perfectly happy as you are, and you'll be perfectly happy whether or not you reach your goal. You just enjoy the process of getting there.
Is that what most people talk about, the process as a
invest
thing?
In the process. Do not invest in the outcome.
Yeah. One of the questions I have in my mind, Dr. Rao, is when I first got started in this, well, that's another question too. In the self-help or personal development space, a lot of people were talking about legacy, right? And I'm just curious if you've ever thought about what what you would consider your legacy is in life.
I used to think about it, but now I don't. My legacy is what it is. If people remember it, fine. If they don't remember it, fine. Things change. Here are all these people who were at one time lauded as charitable individuals who did that. And today their statues are being removed because they were slave owners. So
yeah, that's true.
The bigots.
Sure.
Who is to determine what? It varies by time, varies by circumstances. Why bother yourself with any of that? The universe will decide, and that's fine. For me, I just do what seems right for me at this time. And whatever my legacy is, somebody somewhere will decide. And somebody somewhere a little later might decide it's different. It doesn't matter.
Sure. It's funny because I look at the back of the book and it says self-help, right? And it says self, capital SELF. When somebody says self-help or working on the self, what does that mean to you?
We're always working on ourselves, Brandon. That's the only thing we ever do. The universe is benevolent and gives you many tools, gives you your business, your partner, your children, your occupation. All of these are tools. You use them as skillfully as you can. But in the process of using them skillfully, what you're doing is you're working on yourself. That's what all the great sages tell us. The purpose of human existence is to recognize that what you think you are, a particular body, mind, intellect complex, is not who you really are. You are pure awareness, your spirit.
100%.
And the body is like a suit of clothes that you have.
Few people call it a meat suit.
Dirty, and then you discard it.
You put on, do we put on a new one? Do we get a new set?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And kind of as we get towards the end, again, guys, people listening, we have a short one today with Dr. Rao. I wanted to just be able to hop on, have a quick conversation with them. Appreciate the book. Always appreciate what you're putting out. It's been so beneficial to me. It's funny, as I was going through this book and some of your other ones, um, it's because of you. I've got this other one, a little, got the green screen popped out there, but you turned me on to Anthony DeMello. Some of your stuff, and it just kind of, a similar vein, right? Being able to take the ancient wisdom and translate it into something that I can use on a daily
Absolutely,
basis.
yes.
Yes. You're also an elite coach, and let's talk about how you don't like the term and what terms you like to use there.
Yeah. Uh, I am a coach. I became a coach by happenstance because what happened is people discovered me and they read about me, on the web. There's a ton of material out there. If you go to YouTube and put my name in the search box, several pages of videos will pop up. So people started looking at that and saying, gee, I want to work with Dr. Rao. So I became a coach by happenstance because there were people who said, we want to work with you. So, I became a coach. But in reality, what I simply do is I give them tools for them to understand this is my dilemma. And those tools are very powerful because I take them from the world's greatest masters. So it changes life because that's what those masters had. They had the intuitive insight. And once you understand that, it does change your life. So I've become an effective coach because I've borrowed wholesale from these great masters.
Sure. We're always standing on the shoulders of giants, as they like to say.
Yes.
So instead of, you are a coach and you prefer the friend, philosopher, and guide, right?
Let me explain that, because what happens typically in a coaching engagement is you decide I've got some area where I need to develop. Either you or your boss or your company decides, so this guy's got to. Could be needs to know how to build teams, needs to communicate better, whatever. So you figure out, okay, this is what I need to do. Who can help me do it? And you pick up a list of persons who you think can help you do it, and then you talk to them and you select one and you agree and say, okay, here's what's going to happen. Here's how long the coaching engagement is going to last, and here's the modality, how often we'll meet, how long we'll meet, do I give exercises, whatever. And at the end of the time, whatever it is, your gap has been fixed. I don't work like that. The closest historical parallel to what I do is probably that of Aristotle and Alexander. Alexander was a very willful child, and his father, Philip of Macedonia, couldn't cope with him. So he asked Aristotle, would you talk to my son? I don't seem to be making any headway. So Aristotle started working with Alexander, and they worked for 3 years. And you can bet your boots that Aristotle didn't tell Alexander how to be a better swordsman or how to lay siege to a mountain fortress. They talked about poetry, they talked about biology and botany. He introduced Alexander to Homer and Greek poetry. But at the end of 3 years, Alexander became the person he became, who then went on to do what he did. That's my style of coaching. We talk about a wide variety of things, business, non-business, personal, marriage, everything. And I don't solve any problems, but I do give the framework for analysis. And when they use that framework, they find very often their problem is solved.
That's fantastic.
Permanently.
And I love that, right? Makes me feel like too that I should be able to conquer something, even if it's not like the wide swaths of that Alexander the Great did. You've got so much available out there. I went through the Creative and Personal Mastery. Will that be running next year, the course again? Yes. And for those of you not familiar, this has been, at least for me, I was able to do it online with a group of people that were putting it mildly, very successful. It made me feel good to be a part of this group and be able to just share conversations from a
Yes.
level place, and understand that we're all struggling with, not necessarily struggling. We all have similar dilemmas, and you helped immensely in that group. Who would you recommend pop in and taking a look at that, Dr. Rao?
Say that again.
Who would you recommend should be popping in and taking a look at Creative and Personal Mastery?
Everybody should read the syllabus, and when you read the syllabus, if you're not, you head and say, yes, this is exactly it. It's a good idea for you to explore taking the course.
Yeah. That's how it was for me. So, Dr. Rao, I know you don't have too much time today. I just wanted to say thank you again for continuing to share your wisdom with everybody, and in your way. And looking forward to whatever comes next.
Thank you, Brandon. It's been a pleasure working with you. I'm glad that you've had me on your show again. Please do put a backlink to my book, and I hope to see you again in whenever the universe decides it's appropriate.
That's right. Thanks, Dr. Rao.
Bye, Brandon.
Bye now.
Really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Spiritual Dope Podcast. Stay connected with us directly through spiritualdope.co. You can also join the discussion on Facebook, Spiritual Dope, and Instagram at spiritual_dope. If you would like to speak with us, send us an email through brandon@spiritualdope.co. And as always, thank you for cultivating your mindset and creating a better reality. This concludes the most thought-provoking part of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay fully up to date. Until next time, be kind to yourself and trust your intuition.